Thrones and Principalities. Lord Magister Anton Thresher of the Hidden Hook, who attends the House of Princes, has made an art of glaring at things. With nothing more than folded arms and an unblinking stare, he has become adept at suggesting he is trying to make the person in front of him burst into flames with willpower alone. It can be quite a traumatic experience being on the receiving end, and if he is entirely honest with himself, this young man doesn't really deserve what's happening to him. He is only a messenger, after all. "Say that again," said Anton slowly. "I want to be absolutely certain what you are telling me." The young man swallowed. He glanced at the sumptuous red carpet, the bust of Lord Magister Thresher's beloved mother beside his desk, the beautiful, sanguine hibiscus flowering at the windows, the ceiling, anywhere but at the magician in front of him. He wishes he had not had quite so large a helping of pilf. His hurried lunch is roiling in his stomach, and if he actually throws up, he knows he will die on the spot. The Magician Prince, her Excellency, the Magician Prince Olahya Tokarczuk, that is. She extends solicitous greetings to you and hopes—" Anton made a curt gesture. "Yes, you can skip all that. I understood that part the first time. Get to the important part." The messenger swallowed again, and then he spoke as fast as he could, words tumbling over each other, desperate to bring this interaction to an end as swiftly as possible. "Her Excellency the Magician Prince Olahya Tokarczuk requests that you arrange matters such that her beloved nephew Bojana Atura is empowered to trade with the Cassinian Empire as a matter of some urgency. And in case you've forgotten, she reminds you of the role she played during the regrettable Rigia entanglement involving your cousin and the Cassinian civil servant that you said—" "You can tell Her Excellency that I am well aware of what I said," Anton cut the youth short. "Your message is delivered. Don't let me detain you." It was a threat rather than just an invitation to leave. There were stories about what happened to those who wore out their welcome at Llanglifa Smock Tower, where the Lord Magister Thresher had his official offices. Anton made sure that they remained in circulation, having invented some of them himself. The ambassador turned back to his desk, paused, and looked back, frowning. The messenger was still there. The young man was practically wringing his hands, cold sweat beading on his forehead and cheeks, and in a detached way Anton wondered if he was going to faint. "You're still here?" he growled. The youth practically choked on his tongue. "I was told there would be a reply?" Anton blinked slowly. "Tell Her Excellency that of course I will be delighted to arrange matters as she has requested," he said, his voice flat like bricks falling into a well. "I, of course, wish her nephew every good fortune in his endeavour, despite the clear injunction of the House of Princes that no Jarmis citizen in good standing is to trade with the upstart Cassinians, and I anticipate celebrating his almost assured successes with her next time we meet. Now get out before I throw you out." He put one hand on the rod at his waist and inclined his head slightly towards the window and the sixth-story drop beyond. The youth fled. Anton sat down heavily, tugged angrily at his beard several times, and munched mechanically through 3 small frosted cakes in a row, his expression blank. "These people," he said to nobody at all, "they test me so. So many little things, one after the other, and always they are the most important thing. Peck, 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 like little birds. If I'd realised how much damned work this was all going to be, I'd never have let you talk me into it." This last was directed to the stone bust of his mother. "How you must be laughing," he said, gently, allowing himself a slight, private smile. There immediately came a loud rapping at the office door, followed by the raised voice of his personal secretary, telling him the delegation from Pianu had arrived. Always another thing to worry about, he thought, and sighed heavily at the prospect of an hour pretending to care about Weirwood. Then he brushed the crumbs of pink icing from his beard, fixed his face in what he imagined was a welcoming expression, and prepared himself to receive the new Magician Prince to discuss the tedious trade entanglements her Principality seemed incapable of avoiding. Overview. Each season, the Civil Service prepares a summary of the Empire's relationship with the foreign nations, based on communications received from their ambassador, along with any useful intelligence gathered from any sources. While the Senate and other houses of imperial power may respond to these offers, It is important to note that it is the appropriate ambassador that the foreign power will expect to hear from. Their communication with the foreign power is the primary element that will determine the tenor of any response. Among the 6 great powers, the Principalities of Yarm are no friends to the Empire. The Majocracy, ruled by the House of Princes, has repeatedly denounced what it sees as efforts by imperial citizens to interfere with its interest. The Empire is also allied with their greatest rivals, the Commonwealth, and open war has recently erupted between the 2 great nations. While they are not at war with the Empire, communication in recent years has tended to be brusque and unfriendly. The Yarmish ambassador to the Empire is Lord Magister Anton Thresher of the Hidden Hook, who attends at the House of Princes. A canny and influential politician who has served the House of Princes for over 40 years, he represents the Yarmish to the Empire and vice versa. A potent master of autumn magic, he is known for his sarcasm and dry wit, and for his commitment to the sovereignty of the principalities he serves. Despite the hostile tone of communication between the 2 nations, there is at least some possibility of negotiation between the 2 nations. The new ambassador Nikita Tyanga-Volkov of Varushka has apparently taken great pains to try and reopen avenues of communication with the Yarmish, and their ambassador has grudgingly responded. Bitter and hostile. Relations with the Yarm remain extremely poor. All trade between the Empire and the Yarm is embargoed by both nations. Yarm is engaged in an all-out war with the Commonwealth. Imperial relations with the Principalities of Yarm remain bitter and hostile. The creation of the Liberty Pact in particular soured relations between the Empire and Yarm, but they were already suffering due to repeated attempts to force the magician princes to abandon slavery. Things turned actively hostile when the Yarmish discovered that the Empire had elected to share imperial law with the Commonwealth. This was seen as clear indication of political and magical support for the Commonwealth in their rivalry with Yarm. In response, the House of Princes asked the Imperial Senate to make a statement reassuring the Principalities that they do not intend to participate in any unlawful war against the Principalities or their neighbours, and encouraging their Commonwealth allies to seek diplomatic solutions to their rivalry with the Principalities rather than engaging in unwarranted violence. Concerned about a military alliance between the Empire and the Commonwealth, they were clear that any half measures or non-reassurances would not suffice. Rather than agree not to take part in warfare against the Principalities or their neighbours, the Senate instead declared they would remain militarily neutral unless we are attacked or directly forced into taking action. The fact the motion was so specific, military neutral, only served to convince the Yarmish House of Princes that the Empire intended to support the Commonwealth through other means. The addendum warning that the Empire would take part if they are directly forced into taking action only poured oil on the flames of suspicion. Had that been all, it might have been possible to salvage something from the situation. But then the Senate also imposed an embargo on trade with the Principalities. The Yarmish were infuriated, and the final words from Lord Anton Thresher were especially harsh. What I care about is that your empire insists on treating the ancient and powerful Principalities of Yarm like errant children who will eventually do as they are told if you lecture us enough. Official relations have been abysmal since then. For some time the Yarmish provided magical assistance to the Grendel. There are accounts of magicians helping the Grendel swiftly construct fortifications with a ritual known as the Immaculate Architect, for example, and rumours of significant amounts of crystal mana, and magical foci made available to the orcs of the Broken Shore. This support from the House of Princes apparently came to an end thanks to an intervention from the Eternal Prospero in return for a significant favour from the Conclave. While individual Yarmish may still offer a measure of aid to the Grendel, the 2 nations trade openly, it is likely the initiation of open hostilities with the Commonwealth mean the Magician Princes at least have more pressing issues on their mind. The Freedom Accord. The Yarmish are founder members of the Freedom Accord, an alliance forged in opposition to the Liberty Pact. Thus far, the Yarmish have stopped short of declaring war on the Empire. Instead, the House of Princes pushed a separate treaty of their own with the nations of Asavia and the Sarkophan Delves, ironically entitled the Freedom Accord. The pact is open to any nation, small or large, who is prepared to respect the freedom of individual nations to govern themselves without outside intervention. It is very clearly presented as an economic counterweight to the Liberty Pact. It is not clear what military implications, if any, the Freedom Accord has for those who sign it. There are rumours that the Grendel and Iron Confederacy have both been approached to join the Accord, and that the Orcs of the Broken Shore may already be signatories in some capacity. Although being much smaller and significantly less powerful than Asavia, Yarm, or Sarkophan, it's doubtful they will wield the same political power as their larger allies. Metric and Measure. The Yarmish possess the artifact relic Measure. They have offered to exchange the shield for a ritual text of Brotherhood of Tian. They are also prepared to offer 10 rings of Ilium to whichever conclave order disseminates the ritual text to them. If that happens, they will also pay the Imperial Senate 100 thrones to cover the costs of transporting the ritual text to Yarm. It's been open knowledge for some time that the Yarmish prince Zamaska of Votika took possession of the unique relic shield known as Measure some years ago. This is the original Pilgrim's Shield of Wisdom gifted the 7 pilgrims by Ezkia the Benefactor, one of the greatest smiths the Highborn have ever seen. It is, in Imperial eyes at least, the property of the Champion of Wisdom. There have been several attempts at reaching an agreement to sell the shield to the Empire, but after the spring equinox, Lord Magister Anton Thresher broaches the subject from a different angle. Rather than dealing with an individual, the Yarmish House of Princes have stepped in and apparently secured the shield themselves. They are happy to sell it to the Empire, but they are well aware of its cultural and religious importance and have attached a high price to it. They want the Imperial Conclave to disseminate the ritual Brotherhood of Tian in return for the shield. Ambassador Thresher makes reference to the situation in the Bay of Katazar and says that the House of Princes realizes that it might not be a simple matter for the Empire to convey the shield from Yarm. As such, they have also offered to provide the Imperial Senate with 100 thrones to cover any transportation costs. Given there won't really be any appreciable transportation costs, it is very clear that this offer is meant as an inducement. They have also offered 10 rings of Ilium to the Conclave Order whose Grand Master enacts the Declaration of Dissemination, in recompense for their time and their assistance in the matter. Again, this is clearly an inducement to encourage someone to provide them with the ritual text they desire. In theory, the 10 thrones it costs to disseminate the ritual could be seen as a small price to pay for such an important artifact, even before the additional inducements. But the Brotherhood of Tian is an important military ritual. The Yarmish princes have already attempted to call in a boon from Prospero to gain a copy of the ritual from the Empire, but the Conclave elected to instead provide them with a copy of Find the Best Path to the Relief of the Commonwealth. Thanks to the Conclave's decision to share imperial law with the Commonwealth, they already have access to the ritual. However, the Yarmish are certainly in a much better position to make use of the enchantment, given their mastery of magical laws and access to immense amounts of mana. It would certainly provide the Principalities with an edge in their ongoing war with the Commonwealth over the city-state of Lantir. The civil service are aware that the Principalities of Yarm, as the largest magocracy in the world, likely have the ability to produce their own ritual mimicking the effects of Brotherhood of Tian. This is no small undertaking, however. It could take as long as 2 years to create a ritual text for magic of this magnitude. That Yarm has at least one College of Magic is a certainty, but it's not clear how the notoriously jealous magician princes might use their resources to produce a text that is generally available to their magicians. After all, Yarm has nothing similar to imperial law itself, with individual families maintaining their own carefully guarded stock of law. It seems likely that the magician princes see this prospect of paying a significant price to the Empire to be a more appealing route to secure the magic of Brotherhood of Tian than relying on their own magicians to create it. An interest in artifice. Yarmish merchants of the Circle of Six are interested in pursuing ritual paraphernalia and other items from the Artisans Guild. Trade between the Empire and Yarm is subject to mutual embargo. This does not seem to have stopped the Yarmish merchant Bojana Itura of the Circle of Six from coming to the Empire, however, looking to make arrangements with the Artisans Guild. The Circle enchant ritual paraphernalia and other items used by some of the most powerful magicians in Yarm, but at present demand for their work far outstrips their ability to supply it. To that end, the Yarmish Embassy has made a formal, if slightly grudging, offer to the Artisans Guild on behalf of Bojana Atera to see that the Empire's artisans can help the Circle of Six fulfill their back orders. The Circle need to purchase a lot of items, so they are not interested in dealing with individual artisans. Rather, they are hoping that the Guildmaster of the Artisans will be able to make all the relevant arrangements on their behalf. They have sent a list of what they are looking to buy and the prices they are willing to offer. If the Guildmaster can agree to any of these orders in principle, and the Imperial Ambassador can write to their counterpart to confirm what the Yarmish should expect to receive, then the Circle will send a representative to meet the Guildmaster at the beginning of the autumn equinox to collect the goods and deliver payment. The civil service notes that the current Guildmaster of the Artisans is Xanthius. While the Empire embargoes Yarmish traders from visiting its ports, there is no legal impediment on the Imperial side to citizens trading with the Yarmish. It is the House of Princes that refuses to allow Imperial fleets to visit Karov, Vizak, and Rigia. Given that the involvement of Lord Thresher seems to suggest the House of Princes is not opposed to the Circle of Six trading with the Empire, it seems likely some sort of political arrangement has been made to give them license to do so. Hand of Dumont. The Principalities of Yarm are bemused by warnings about the Hand of Dumont. The only other missive that the civil service receive after the spring equinox is a curt dismissal of Ambassador Nikita's suggestion that the Hand of Dumont are present within the Yarm. Lord Magister Anton Thresher claims never to have heard of this group, but blithely suggests that if the Empire wishes to put them in touch, he would welcome the opportunity to speak with them. The group are apparently enemies with the Iron Confederacy, and the Yarmish have little affection for the Sirani, so perhaps the Yarm and the Hand might have something in common? Even if they were trying to infiltrate one of the Principalities, Lord Anton seems amused by the idea that they would make such headway against the dozen or more occult conspiracies with centuries of history in Yarm. In my experience, there's nothing better at bringing people who hate each other together than a newcomer from across the sea trying to muscle in on their domain, suggests Thresher in what can only be a sarcastic tone. It is clear that the Yarmish ambassador doesn't expect anything to come from their request to be put in contact. It appears intended as a somewhat insulting rebuke rather than a genuine interest in the Hand of Dumont's cause. The civil service assessment is that the Hand of Dumont are a small group of magicians with a very tight focus. It's not impossible that there might be individual Yarmish magicians that have more sympathy for them as fellow magicians or potential pawns, but it is very unlikely indeed that they are a significant presence in the Principalities of Yarm.